This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to Q&A, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and Twitter and answer them here in video format. A ton of questions to get through, so let's just jump through it. First question comes from my guy, Mad Half, who says, how would you rank the AFC South opponents based on matchup? Also, been loving the Q and Code podcast. Shout out to the Q and Code listeners out there. If you aren't a Q and Code listener, make sure you check it out. Everything is in the description down below to make sure you can get those links to see the podcast that me and my guy Code do. But how would I rank the AFC South opponents based on matchup? It would basically go, I think Trevor Lawrence has the highest ceiling of, like, he can play the best game out of all of those quarterbacks. I think CJ Stroud's a close second when it comes to the ceiling he can reach, but CJ Stroud is more consistent and more likely to hit his ceiling. So that's why I think CJ Stroud is actually the one you want the least. So I would put him at 4 because I think he's truly on the path to becoming, if not an elite level quarterback, to a on the cusp of elite level quarterback. I don't think the same with Trevor Lawrence, right? So I would put him down there. Then I would put the team that I want to play the second least in the AFC South would be the Colts. Now, they don't have a quarterback that's better than Trevor Lawrence, but that's all about how I feel about the Colts coaching staff. They do a good job there. I think the Browns match up well with the Colts. I think the Browns could beat the Colts. The Colts end up being the opponent. But the matchup would be a little bit tougher. Shane Steichen is a little bit more inventive, and he had some success the last time he played Jim Schwartz. The matchup that I would probably want the most if I'm the Cleveland Browns is the Jacksonville Jaguars for a number of reasons. One, they're really playing some cold football right now. 2, we're not even 100% sure if their quarterback's healthy. 3, their offensive line just isn't great, and the strength of this Browns team is their defensive line. And if that defensive line gets going, it's canceled Christmas for any team that plays the Browns. Even if the Browns turn the ball over a ton, we saw this in the first Jacksonville game. So for the Browns in general, the playoffs and the matchups you're going to want in the playoffs for the Cleveland Browns are going to be dictated by the opposing team's offensive line, is basically what I'm trying to get to. The worse you feel like a team's offensive line is, the more you should want the Browns to play them, because the more those teams play into the hands of what Cleveland likes to do to win these football games. So that's what I would rank it by. And in general, what I would use as a good jumping off point to see where the good matchups are for Cleveland. My guy Sheldon Cooper, the Black Sheldon Cooper, says, who do you think will be the most important non-starter during our playoff run? Thinking of a guy who rotates in or out for specific downs, more in case of injury. I think they're going to be guys like Cam Mitchell that step up. They're going to be guys like DeAnthony Bell who step up and make a play. Maybe Pierre Strong makes a play as a running back or as a defensive special teams player. Look, the Browns have had guys step up week after week all season. So I really wouldn't be surprised if something like that happened in the playoff. Who? It could be a number of guys. I mean, look at the number of people who stepped up. It could be Ronnie Hickman. It could be DeAnthony Bell. It could be Deron Harmon. It could be Cedric Tillman. You know, it could be Harrison Bryant. Like, it could be any number of these guys when you have a locker room like this that just steps up and takes care of business when business is there to be taken care of. My guy Charlie Blue says, how important is it to get back for the who is more important to get back for the playoffs? My bad. Dustin Hopkins or Grant Delpit. Now, I think there's two ways to answer this. What would make us feel better? The answer is Dustin Hopkins. What would impact the game more? Grant Delpit. Now, I don't think that Dustin Hopkins not being there is going to not impact the game. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that hopefully if you play a clean game of football, all you're really asking Dustin Hopkins to do and all you've been asking Dustin Hopkins to do since Joe Flacco's been a quarterback is, for the most part, make the usual kicks. Like, I think he's had to make one kick over 50 yards. It's not like the first few weeks of the season where we asked him to make 7 kicks over 50 yards, right? We're not asking crazy stuff from the kicker right now. We're asking for very basic field goals that Riley Patterson is more than capable of making. It would make us feel better if Dustin Hopkins was out there because he would give us that security. But as far as impact on the game goes, Grant Delpit's going to be massive. I mean, you're going to play Evan Ingram potentially in the first round. If you don't, you're going up against a Shane Steichen offense. And if you're not going up against that, you're going up against CJ Stroud, and you already saw what he was able to do against the Cincinnati Bengals with Noah Brown, another tight end. Like, you're going to need somebody there to be a tight end eraser the way that Grant Delpit has been a tight end eraser. And if you don't have that, it's really going to bite you in the butt in more ways than not having Dustin Hopkins can, because the way that not having Dustin Hopkins hurts you is if you have to consistently kick 50, 60-yard field goals or whatever it may be, high pressure field goals. And the way you avoid getting to that point is if you're able to stop offenses, and you're going to do a better job of stopping offenses with Grant Delpit out there, especially since he is the key piece to stopping a lot of these tight ends on the football field. So that's what I would do. I would rather have Grant than Dustin Hopkins, but I understand why people would feel the other way about it, but that's where I'm at. My guy B. Rossman says, I don't really listen to sports talking heads as their takes usually aren't good, but I have noticed many people calling the Browns the most dangerous team to face in the playoffs. I'm kind of feeling the same way. Am I wrong? I would say the Browns are on a list of teams you wouldn't want to play, because they're so physical and defensive oriented. Those teams are always difficult in the playoffs. Think of the Browns, and this is another cross sports comparison. Think of the Browns like the early 2000 Pistons. Like, they cobble together enough scoring for it to matter, but the bread and butter is the defense, and nobody wants to play a team like that in any postseason, where it's just like smash mouth defensive football. You got to figure out something to do with Myles Garrett. And also, now the offense is kind of hot, so now you don't just have to deal with the Browns defense holding you potentially to less than 14 points, which they did to a lot of teams this year. You also have to deal with the offense putting up numbers as well. And that's just a tough combination to go against. So I think they're right. The Browns, they're hot at the right time. They're one of the most talented rosters in the NFL, despite having so many injuries. It makes sense that people are kind of jumping on the bandwagon right now. My man Trigger says, every team has a unsung hero in a playoff run. Let's say hypothetically Browns going to run in the postseason. Who do you see being their breakout X factor, not necessarily a breakout star? This is very similar to another question that happened earlier in here. Again, that person can be anybody because so many guys have popped out of nowhere. But I would keep an eye on somebody like Jerome Ford, who, despite the fact that we look at him as having a disappointing season, has had a pretty good year as a receiver. I think that's something to look out for. I would also keep an eye on Jordan Atkins. More attention to David Njoku, more attention to Amari Cooper might leave him open, and he's a good enough athlete to make that matter. So those two guys, when the attention shifts, I think Joe Flacco's going to have to go to other guys, and those are the guys he's probably going to default to. So maybe they don't have giant runs statistically, but they might have a couple of really big plays in this run if it goes the way the Browns want it to go. Again, it's big if. Robert says, would winning with 5 different starting quarterbacks in a season solidify Kevin as coach of the year in the eyes of national fans, media posters? I think Kevin should already be cemented as coach of the year. If he's not at this point with media members and national fans, I don't think a win against a Cincinnati Bengals team that's out of the playoff hunt is going to do anything to sway that, no matter how impressive it is. So I don't think it solidifies anything. I think it should be solidified. But I don't think this changes the argument for Kevin Stefanski to win coach of the year one way or the other, the result of this game. My guy Aiden says, could the Browns go on a Joe Flacco like Ravens run? Maybe. I mean, like, you look at this team, it's a better defense than the Ravens had in 2012, a much better defense. People forget that Ravens defense in 2012 was kind of like, it wasn't bad. They still had Ray. They still had Ed. But this was Ed Reed a year before he played for the Jets. In the last year of Ray Lewis, where he was kind of held together by duct tape. Like, that was not a great defense. We remember it as being a great defense because they wore the Baltimore Ravens uniforms, and it was Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, and people didn't give Joe Flacco much credit for that run, so they made it about the defense, but the defense wasn't really the shining part there, right? What they had on that Ravens team was a Kubiak system where they had Jacoby Jones is the deep threat, Torrey Smith as kind of the main guy that they like to go to. I can't remember if Anquan Bolden was or was not on those teams, but you had an Anquan Bolden type. Like, you had these archetypes, Dennis Pitta, all these archetypes on that Ravens team. And then you look at this Browns team and you're like, okay, well, you can match up Jacoby Jones in that offense with Marquise Goodwin. You could match up everything that you were getting out of both either Anquan Bolden, both, or whatever it was. You can get whatever you got from Anquan Bolden and or Torrey Smith from Amari Cooper, and then David Njoku is Dennis Pitta with hops. Like, it's very familiar for him. And I could see where he could, lock in, make a good run. Hopefully everything goes his way, health-wise, physically wise, mental-wise, and you can get lucky like that again. It's not out the realm of possibility. It might be possible that you don't even have to get that lucky because the defense is so good. So we'll see where things take us. I don't want to build up a ton of expectations before we even finish the regular season. But yeah, there's a chance of that happening. There's a chance that they come out cold in this playoff game and lose by 40. But, it's definitely a possibility that they can come out here and have a Flacco 2012 run. Joey says, should we be worried about the injury with DeJuan Jones? He's so big that it seems like he's doomed to be injured. Would it be worth trading him while the price is high before his body gives out? If not, are there comps to guys like him that can stay healthy? Look, I don't think this would be a good idea unless there is something medically that the Browns know that we don't, that is a red flag. Given that DeJuan Jones dropped in the draft and nobody leaked that it was medically related, especially when he was playing well, I doubt that's the case. It's not like he tore his ACL or anything. Like, I think people are I think Joey here is overreacting a far bit. Like, he's just got a knee scope. He's just getting something corrected. It was probably, honestly, something that happened to him in college that got to a point with the wear and tear through the season where you just had to do something about it. This is not the type of injury where you would worry about that kind of thing. This feels like something else. So I think this is a massive overreaction by Joey here. I don't think the Browns are going to trade him. And there have been plenty of players who are big who haven't got injured in the NFL at the offensive tackle position. I mean, Jonathan Ogden had a long career. Just look around the league. There's a ton of giant tackles who have had long careers and haven't been riddled by injury. And again, it's not like DeJuan tore his ACL or anything. Probably had a long-term nagging injury that he's been playing through for a couple years, and he just needed to get it scoped up. It's different so it can heal properly. So I think anything worrying about like his career is kind of a bit of a leap here. But that's it for the Q&A. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.